Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight is a really good episode because this is the Glendalough 13 Mizunara cask finish. And it's number 18 on Whiskey Advocate's 2018 list. It's gonna be good. And I knew it was gonna be good and I've tasted it and it's really good. So let me tell you a little bit about it. So Glendalough is no stranger to this channel. I reviewed them way back when I would have considered them to be kind of a craft distillery. And you can check out more about them up there if you'd like. But they've moved past that in my mind. They're basically all over the place and they are making a big deal, or they are becoming a big deal. And this guy, Donald, who's the marketing director at the company, him and I have talked a lot of times. And he kind of gave me his own impressions of this that you may have seen in, I'll just post the video up there, this event that I went to. And in general, Glendalough makes good stuff. So this is the first time I've talked about Mizunara casks, and I'm aware that it's pronounced differently. I'm not Japanese. I'm not even going to attempt it because I will do it a disservice. So I'm going to be just typical American and just call it Mizunara. So first time I've talked about Mizunara, and I figure I should probably tell you what it is, because I bet that a lot of you, although you're aware that it's a big deal and that it's a sought after type of barrel, I bet you don't know a whole lot about it. So Mizunara is an extremely hard wood to work with in that it's very soft. It's so soft that most people will talk about how you can actually indent it with your fingernail. And it's kind of came about for like a weird reason, right? So a Mizunara cask is made from a specific kind of tree that takes about 300 to 500 years to grow large enough to bother harvesting. And after the Second World War, Japan was unable to get their hands on bourbon barrels for reasons. And because of that, they ended up having to basically cut down their own trees. And they still needed to make whiskey. So they started experimenting and they cut down these Mizunara trees and they started making barrels out of it. And it was a hard thing to do. So much so that people had to become specialized in just dealing with this wood. And now it's become something that's super desirable, and you'll see that there are a good amount of different companies that are finishing their whiskeys in Mizunara casks. So this Glendalough is the first Irish whiskey to have done that. And because of that, they kind of have a leg up. And frankly, personally, it was one of the first whiskeys I ever saw that had even attempted it. So they definitely were ahead of the curve there. So let's talk about this whiskey in particular, because frankly, having it sit this close to me and not having some is it's just torture. All right, so let's go ahead and pour a nice big glass. This ages for 13 years in ex-bourbon barrels, and that's fine, it's standard, but then they finish it in the Mizunara casks, so it's not spending all 13 years in there. It's important to know. All right, let's go ahead and give this a nose. Boy, where do I start? If you're wondering why I'm gushing, it's because this is really just that good. I mean, you guys have seen a lot of my videos, hopefully, at this point. I don't gush very often, and when I do, it's typically worth it. So this one's a good one. All right, so let's go ahead. For me, the very first thing I get out of here is coconut, which oddly enough, based off that last review I did on the Napogue Castle, coconut doesn't come up very often, but apparently it's 2 in a row for me. So, all right, coconut, you have vanilla, you have a little bit of chocolate, which chocolate and vanilla do not typically end up in the same whiskeys at the same time, which is kind of interesting. Never really thought of it before. A lot of fruit going on here. I'm getting peaches, I'm getting orange juice, specifically orange juice, because it's a little bit sugary. You got some honey, and oddly enough, reminding me a little bit more of high school, where sometimes I would burn some incense, specifically sandalwood. And I'm getting a little bit of sandalwood out of here. So I would say that there's probably more to be discovered, but I think that's a pretty good list so far. So let's go ahead and give this a taste. Cheers. Texture-wise, it's very creamy. Very creamy. It's vanilla. It is, here's a good one. I would say not just vanilla. It's kind of more like vanilla cupcake frosting because it's got a little bit of that buttery creaminess in there as well. You've got some peach. You've got some less of that coconut that you were tasting, that you were nosing for sure. I would say that the fruits are not as impactful on the taste as they would be as they are on the nose. The biggest thing that you're going to be getting is the aftertaste. The finish is, honestly, it makes you want to drink more. It's got this kind of toffee flavor to it. It's got a little bit of clove to it, but not really. I'm not sure what that is, to be honest with you. I'm gonna go clove, but I feel like there's more to it there. It's not really oak, obviously. It's more just, it's not a woody flavor. It's something else. So sorry. Usually I can identify it. That one I had a hard time with. All right, let's just kind of cut to the chase. This is pretty expensive. You could spend $100 on this bottle, and I think that, you know, I have a pretty hard rule about recommending anything at or above $100. This is one that gets my pass. I think if you're willing to fork over that kind of money for a whiskey, this is a real safe bet. I think you're gonna love this whiskey. So that does it for this episode of the Whiskey Dictionary. Thank you for joining me here for Irish Whiskey Month. It's all over, and I have an awesome surprise for you guys coming up in early April. For the first couple weeks of April, prior to the Game of Thrones coming out, I'm going to be doing all of the Game of Thrones whiskeys, just back to back to back, but I'm going to be doing them in a very interesting way. I know you've probably seen some of the other ones already. This is going to be a little different. So have a great rest of your night, and I hope to see you next time. Cheers.